very good afternoon to you, our cherished listeners. It's always indeed super exciting to come your way every Wednesday with your favorite business development program on radio, Masterclass. Masterclass is powered by Joy Business and brought to us by Goyle. Goyle, they say good energy, Goyle, Yenara, Yedia. It's indeed the 25th day of November. Gradually, we're inching towards the end of the year, few more days, and it's election day. And in a few more days after that also, it's Christmas. It certainly does feel good to bring you today's edition of Masterclass. Today we have sort of mixed feelings here on the show because today's show will be the last show in the series of Masterclass for this year, 2020. We're definitely going to miss you, our cherished listeners, and all of the contributions that we've shared. We're also going to miss, our wonderful resource persons who have taken the time out. We'll take some time out at the end of the show to probably say thank you to them as well for being with us throughout the whole year. And we'll definitely look back to continuing our engagements with you when we come back in January. My name, as always, is Yabanafo, and I will be co-hosting today's show with my favorite man, Charles Nixon Yeboah. Charles is a great guy by all standards. He's been helping me host the last two shows, holding the fort, doing a great job. So, Charles, how has your week been so far? Wonderful? Indeed. Yeah. Mixed feelings today. Last show of the year. Mixed feelings.
Somehow, because some of our listeners will like to hear us get more, more perspective into the world of business, what the steps to take in terms of getting businesses running effectively so that they'll be able to generate enough income for themselves.
I think that if there's any message we're going to give to our listeners before we get into today's show in a few seconds, what we're telling them is by all means in this season and the Yuletide, by all means drive safe so that you arrive alive.
Absolutely.
And number two, hashtag we stand for peace.
Exactly.
On Masterclass.
Exactly.
Nixon, do us a favor, introduce our resource person. Let's continue the conversation today and then we'll come back and round up the show.
Well, thank you, Banafo, and I'm glad to have you on the show today. And quickly, we want to take a recap of what transpired last week. And last week, we looked at the topic leveraging corporate support and outsourcing services for startups. And we actually delve into outsourcing. And we all know that outsourcing is a type of business whereby you cede part of your operations to a third party to kind of reduce cost. And we look at how different outsourcing is from business processes outsourcing. And we also looked at how critical outsourcing is to today's business, the benefits of outsourcing for startups, what startups should look out for in identifying outsourcing companies, among others. And as usual, we have the man King Kojo Sarfo on today's show to help us look at different perspectives as we wrap up the show for the year. King Kojo Sarfo actually is a management partner for Firstcode Management Services, and like I always say, he has very extensive CV, and I would like to read briefly about it. He's a very practical-oriented gentleman with in-depth knowledge in business outsourcing and management consultancy as well. He has a rich experience in research, and in research we are very particular about methodology because we need to get our sampling size and sampling technique very right. He also has some extensive experience in business regulatory compliance, market entry, and corporate services for businesses. And let me welcome King Kojo Sarfo of Firstcode Management Services. King, good afternoon and welcome to the show Masterclass on your superstation Joy 99.7 FM.
Thank you very much, Charles, and good afternoon to your cherished listeners.
Good afternoon, Ken. Today we will be looking at the topic, what it means to be entrepreneurial in non-profit businesses. And clearly, non-profit businesses is growing in this country and across the globe. I was reading an article, and clearly in the United States, non-profit business is very dominant in the United States. And Ken, first and foremost, let me ask you, what is non-profit businesses and how different it is from other businesses? And let me also add, is non-NGO, non-governmental organization, non-profit business?
Okay, thank you. Basically, when we say a non-profit business, as the name suggests, we are talking about a business which is set up for a particular mission other than making profit. So non-profit businesses are basically organizations or establishments set up to achieve a particular cause. other than generating profit, which is meant to be shared or distributed to the owners of the business. And you're asking about how different it is from an NGO. Yes, indeed, an NGO is basically a non-governmental organization, and a non-governmental organization is a non-profit organization. So we say it's an NGO because it usually would have little or no government influence, and that is why we refer to it as an NGO. So basically, an NGO is simply one way of registering a non-profit organization. So there are other aspects of non-profit organizations. I mean, you have civil society organizations, you have community-based organizations, you have faith-based organizations, you have research centers, you have think tanks, and quite a number of them. But basically, the most important aspect is that they are not meant to generate profit.
Well, let me also say that we are streaming live on our Facebook page, Joy 99.7 FM. You can also reach us on our Twitter handle, Joy 99.7 FM. If you want to be interactive, you can WhatsApp us on 05511119997. Send your comments, your questions, and Ken Kojo Sarfo is here to respond to all your questions and comments as well. Well, Ken, you've rightly spoken so much about what non-profit business mean, how dominant it is in this country.
Well, I probably want to start discussing it at the regional level. Indeed, considering there are quite a number of developing countries within the African region, it is not without doubt that you're going to have a lot of non-profit organizations because they come in the form of philanthropic organizations and community-based organizations that are meant to address challenges such as poverty, unemployment, and then the related features that are known to characterize developing countries. So in terms of dominance, indeed, there are quite a number of non-profits in Ghana and then other parts of the African region. I am unable to put a number to it, but there are growing number of NGOs, usually working with development partners or development agencies to achieve particular cause. And they all usually would have a cause ranging from education, empowerment, girl-child support, and quite a number of them. So yes, basically non-profit organizations are dominating the space, and we are seeing a new era of them. Social enterprises, that's also another area of non-profit that is gradually finding space in today's marketplace.
Well, Ken Kojo Sarfo right there. Non-profit businesses is very important as far as our development is concerned. And speaking in the context of graduate entrepreneurship, what would exactly motivate a graduate to go into non-profit business?
I would first talk about what should not motivate a graduate to go into non-profit business, and that should be amassing wealth and making profit from that. So if you're a graduate and you seek to go into the non-profit space, indeed there are quite a number of opportunities for you, but it should be driven by a motive other than seeking to amass wealth or seeking to generate profit. And then the reason why this is important is that should your activities generate surplus income or profit, the non-profit business structure does not require you to distribute that among the owners or the founders of the organization, but particularly to put it to the cause or the objective of the organization. So for graduates seeking to go into non-profit, for so long as we live as humans and then society evolves, there are indeed problems that keep occurring. And for that matter, to go into the non-profit, you need to find some of the issues or problems that persist in society and then find out whether indeed you are committed and you have a mission to address some of these societal problems. If indeed you have this mission, put yourself together, find out which area of the various options available to you want to focus on, and then basically you can go into business. So see the non-profit as one of the business lines, and I would be quick to say that the non-profit is basically different from what most people discuss as startup entrepreneurship, what we've usually been talking about in the entrepreneurship ecosystem. Because with a non-profit, unlike it's a limited liability company, however, it is limited by guarantee. And we say it's limited by guarantee because you cannot subscribe to shares in a non-profit. In the non-profit space, those who start the non-profit usually would not want to refer to them as owners. You hardly will hear people talking about owners of a non-profit. Usually they will talk about founders of the non-profit. And you will talk about those who start the non-profit to be the executive council members and the subscribers, what you refer to in the other business structure, which is limited by shares. You refer to them as shareholders for the subscribers and then directors for the executive council members. But in the context of limited liability companies, particularly limited by shares, the business is driven by profit motive. And for limited by guarantee, it is not. So for entrepreneurs who seek, or graduates who seek to go into startup or go into startup businesses in the non-profit space, there are opportunities for you to go into that business. You just have to understand what it means to run a non-profit space, and there are business and regulatory concerns that one needs to unravel to survive in the non-profit sector.
Well, let me say that this show is brought to you by Gwal Good Energy Gwal Yenara Yedia. You can be interactive by WhatsApping us on 05511119997. Ask your questions and your comments, and King Kojo Sarfo is here to answer all your questions and also respond to your comment as well. Ken, you've spoken a lot about non-profit business, and someone would like to ask, how do non-profit business make money?
How do non-profit business make money? Make money is quite an interesting thing to say. So yes, usually non-profit businesses make money. But if making money here you mean generating profit, I think I've already discussed that. But making money, you're talking about how they generate money to run the business. So like any other business, indeed, non-profits would have to identify means of making money to survive as a business. And it's very critical because in the absence of sustainable financing, whatever your motive is to address societal problems here, I'm sure you cannot take it too far if you are not able to identify lines of making money. So directly to your question, how do they make money? I would say that they have sources limited to crowdfunding. They have philanthropic support from donors. They have grants. And then they can also raise loans when necessary, except that they are regulated even when it comes to raising loans. So for non-profits to make money, yes, the subscribers and then the executive council members, and of course the employees in the non-profit will definitely be compensated for the work that they do. So if it is about those behind the non-profits making money, that's basically what it means. They would make money by benefiting for the work that they put into it. They will be compensated by way of salaries and wages paid to them, or by way of allowances paid to them for their efforts. However, for the business makes money by relying on philanthropic support, by relying on grants, and by relying on other donor support and then support from other corporate bodies. These are usually what we've known to be the conservative and the traditional means by which non-profits make money. In recent times, you are seeing very sustainable approaches where they engage in some commercial activities, which also bring money to the non-profit business.
So talking about the commercial activities, what exactly are they into? Because we want to know which activities are they in with respect to generating some level of income to run their business.
That'll probably just drive me to another interesting subject I mentioned, which is that of social entrepreneurship. So players in the non-profit space who would usually employ commercial strategies to undertake or to deliver on their social goals or to deliver on the organizational mandate would usually be described as social enterprises or social entrepreneurs. And they would normally engage in any commercial activity which is meant to generate income for them. And usually these commercial strategies, or what we would refer to as business strategies, would end up getting them a lot more income over their expenditure. So they would definitely have income surpluses, which they would not be able to distribute among themselves because they fall in the bracket of a non-profit, but they would particularly assign it to the object or the purpose for which the business was established. So for commercial activities, indeed, it depends on what the non-profit does. You can be a non-profit organization and then you are seeking to encourage hand washing. And I'll use that example because of the time we find ourselves in. So here, let me see if I can be able to discuss the context in a varied way for listeners to understand. When you talk about a limited liability company, which is limited by shares, a typical for-profit business going into the business of making soap, they'll raise money from so many sources, and then they'll go into the soap production, They would obviously make some profit if they put their strategies and their commercial practices well together. Once they make the profit, they have the option of distributing the profit among the owners of the business. And then if they distribute the profit, they can decide as part of their corporate social responsibility to assign part of the profit to support hand washing projects. Let's use the same example and let's discuss in the context of a social enterprise. In the context of a social enterprise, raising the money would usually not be through commercial means. That is one. They would normally not rely on commercial means of raising the money. But then they could raise the money from sources including grants and supports and then donor aid and all that. But once they raise the money, they would put the money into business, commercial activity. So in this case, they can go into soap making. So they put a group of women together or team of people together, assuming their focus is on women empowerment. So they do that, they produce soaps, and then they commercialize it, they sell, they make money. At the end of the day, the money made is put back into the business of supporting women empowerment. That's basically what the social enterprise will do. So the social enterprise will look at the commercial aspect of it by making sure that they are generating more money from making soap and from selling soap. But when they make the money, it is a non-profit organization, and so they would put the money back into the object of the business. The same context being discussed in a typical non-profit, which we'd refer to as an NGO. In this context, they would normally call on a donor or a supporting agency, like a philanthropic organization or a development partner. They make the money, and then they use the money to support the hand washing project. And normally they would not engage in a typical commercial activity where they would seek to make profits or they would seek to make income over expenditure. And that may come up because in the course of the activities it does come up, but their main objective will be to address the core mandate, which is promoting hand wash.
Rightly so. Can one ask, can you equate non-profit business to a legal or accounting firm?
Non-profit business to a legal or accounting firm?
Absolutely.
Okay, so you want to understand whether a legal or accounting firm can be non-profit? Yes. I mean, unless areas that are regulated by specific regulators in Ghana.
I'm saying this because usually, the income is shared at the end of the period, usually at the end of the year. That is when the income or the proceeds are shared among the partners.
Yes, so the profits will be shared among partners in the case of a partnership or in a case of a company limited by shares. But I'm addressing directly your question. When you talk about legal or accounting service, if you're in that service line, it's just like any other service line. If your activities are not barred by a regulator, what it means is that you can incorporate a company limited by guarantee and provide legal service. And indeed, I think there are some services like that in Ghana. And it means that they are providing legal services, but particularly they are seeking to support. Usually they would be there to support a cause, a social cause. And so it can be accounting service, but you want to do it to support a particular cause. So whatever the service line is, you'd be able to undertake it with the non-profit, provided it is not restricted or barred by a regulator.
Well, you are listening to Masterclass on your superstation Joy 99.7 FM. We've been looking at the topic, what it means to be entrepreneurial in non-profit business. In Business 101 or business management or business finance, usually when we talk about the types of businesses, sole proprietorship, partnership, limited liability company, we do not mention non-profit business. Where exactly can we situate non-profit business?
Non-profit business would usually not be mentioned in the typical business structures, but indeed it falls under a structure referred to as companies limited by guarantee. So non-profit businesses are limited liability companies, like I said, but then they are limited by guarantee. Limited by guarantee in the sense that the subscribers to the regulations of the company would be committed, they guarantee, so they will be committed to defraying the assets or any liabilities that the company is bound to in the situation of liquidation. So when it comes to companies limited by guarantee, non-profits find space in that. It is one of the structures.
Well, you can be interactive on our WhatsApp line as 0551111 97. And Ken, let me also ask this question. Are Ghanaians really interested in non-profit business? I'm taking you back to the earlier questions, Q1 and Q2.
Whether Ghanaians are interested in non-profit. I think there are probably a lot more people going into non-profit than those who are actually, those actually going into the non-profit space. Quite a number of people are going into it, but at the end of the day, the most important thing is that are they committed to a particular cause, and do they understand what it means to run a non-profit business? And so when you ask whether Ghanaians are interested in the non-profit business, I would say yes, because most of our communities and most of the activities we find around us are usually prone to problems and challenges. And so you find a group of people come together to identify a common cause, and then usually we establish a business and refer to it as an NGO or any type of a non-profit, and then veer into it and then make some money to advance societal goals.
Well, Kofi from Tantra Hill, Kofi Amo actually from Tantra Hill says he's interested in establishing a non-profit business. What should be the approach and the steps to be taken to acquire a non-profit business?
Okay, so to start a non-profit organization, like I said, is limited by guarantee, and then it finds its place at the Registrar General's Department like any other business. So what Kofi needs to do is to procure the incorporation forms. Non-profits are incorporated. So you procure the incorporation forms from the Registrar of Companies, which is the Registrar General's Department. You complete it, and then once you sign off to it, you provide your details of subscribers and then your executive council members, and indeed you need a secretary as well. Once you do this and then you complete the processes at the Registrar General's Department, you'll be issued with a certificate, and then for an NGO you would have to proceed to the Department of Social Welfare and then get registered, get your organization also registered and issued with a license or a permit to operate.
Well, King Kojo Sarfo there, he is a management partner of Firstcode Management Services, and we've been delving into the topic, what it means to be entrepreneurial in non-profit business in the context of graduate entrepreneurship. Our mission is to ensure that we help to bridge the high unemployment gap as far as graduates are concerned, and he's been helping us to delve into this particular topic. I guess in every business there are internal strengths, weaknesses. Can you share with us some of the strengths and weaknesses of non-profit organization, and in terms of the weaknesses, how do we address them going forward?
Okay, so yes, non-profit is a very important business structure that we need to pay attention to, because it's particularly the only area that is committed to supporting humanity, let me put it that way, and then supporting development in the context of the economy. They are seen as development partners. They end up working effortlessly and then giving their all and putting all their resources into advancing social goals or addressing societal problems. And so, yes, indeed, they definitely would have some advantages doing that business, and then they will have some challenges as well. I think when it comes to advantages, you definitely will see that they go through a different kind of difficulty when it has to do with raising funds. So they usually also sometimes have challenges. Usually as a developing country or a third world country, you attract a lot more support from the developed nations. And so Ghana has seen a lot more funding and donor support. But now I think one of the major challenges startups in the non-profit space are facing would be fundraising. So they usually lack the necessary business acumen which is required for them to raise funds and sustain their activities. So if I would say any particular challenge in the non-profit space, it would be in relation to managing the business and then sustaining the activities of the business. And so you see most non-profits start and then they are not able to sustain their activities. But in terms of advantages, there are varied advantages that we can talk about depending on what they do. They support all kinds of missions, and then now you have corporate bodies who partner non-profits, and that's one of the things I encourage non-profits to do, to partner corporate bodies, which are businesses meant to make profits, and then work together in achieving a common goal.
Well, thank you very much, Ken Kojo Sarfo of Firstcode Management Services. We'll be taking a quick break, and when we return, I will announce the phone line so that you can call to ask your questions and perhaps make some contribution to the show. Thank you very much for listening to Masterclass on your superstation Joy 99.7 FM.
The Masterclass is in session, and you can interact with us via Facebook at Joy Business or at Joy 99.7 FM. And if you tweet, the handle is at Joy 997 FM. Don't forget to hashtag Masterclass. You can also send us a text on 1422 across all networks, or join the WhatsApp conversation on 0244 340437, and our facilitators will address your concerns. Attention everyone, class is in progress.
Well, thank you for listening to the show Masterclass on your superstation Joy 99.7 FM. You can be interactive and WhatsApp us on the line 05511119997. Our phone lines is also activated. You can reach us on 0302 216-541, and King Kojo Sarfo is here helping us to delve into the topic, what it means to be entrepreneurial in non-profit business. So far, we've looked at various questions, and I would ask Ken Kojo Sarfo the issue about board. Board is very key in every business to regulate and make sure the business runs effectively. How different is the board of non-profit business from a limited liability company?
Okay, like I said, non-profit is also a limited liability company, but I imagine you're referring to how different the board of a non-profit is from companies limited by shares.
I mean, Kojo, just before you go on, let me just quickly put the phone lines out again so that we get quite interactive. This is the last show, so we're encouraging all of our listeners to get active. Give us a call, 0302-216-541. That's 0302-216-541. By all means, we want to hear your voice. We want you to be the person who called the show last this year, and then we'll give you a shout out. We can actually, mention your name and give you a shout out. You can also send us a WhatsApp on 055-111-997. That's 055-111-997. Pick up a phone and give us a call on 0302-216-541. Kojo, please go ahead.
Well, Kojo, before you go ahead, there is a quick WhatsApp message, and it's from Samson in Dowenia. Samson is asking whether he wants actually to know the minimum requirement to start non-profit business. I'm sure you've touched on that, but if you can recap.
Well, a minimum requirement in terms of, if it's referring to it in terms of money, there isn't any minimum requirement that one needs to pay to start a non-profit. You only need to procure the forms and pay the incorporation fees at the Registrar General's Department, and then the subscribers would only have to commit to the, in case of a liquidation, they need to commit to taking care of the assets when there's liquidation, but no fees, no fee by way of a minimum requirement, no minimum requirement by way of capital is required to set up a non-profit, unlike companies limited by shares.
Let me mention that the show is brought to you by Gwal Good Energy, Gwal Yenara Yedia. Going cashless has never been this convenient and exciting. Gwal e-payment system is now compatible with GH Link, the national payment platform. Now you can use your GH Link card on Gwal POS machine to purchase fuel. GH Link card offers additional payment option for fuel purchases at Gwal stations in addition to the Go card. Every fuel purchase is recorded automatically on your monthly bank statement, helping card holders track and manage their expenses. So go ahead and use your GH Link card to buy fuel and all lubricants from any of Gwal's over 400 stations across the country. Go cashless and protect yourself and stick to all COVID-19 protocols in these times. Gwal Good Energy, Gwal Yena Rayedia. Ken, we're looking at the issue about the corporate governance structure or the board issue, how different it is from normal or limited liability businesses.
Okay, so it's not different when we talk about boards. I mean, corporate governance runs in any kind of business structure. If indeed you want to run a good business and you want to sustain your business activities, it's important to put your corporate governance structures together. So the board is only one aspect of it, because in a company limited by shares or in the for-profit businesses, they have a board, usually board of directors. The same board of directors find space in the companies limited by guarantee or the non-profit space, but they would usually be referred to as board of advisors, board of trustees, but they usually will serve the same purpose. So they are there to ensure that the organization, most importantly, works in line with its objects or its mandate. So they are there to ensure that the organization also plays its role in terms of complying with regulatory issues or regulatory requirements. And then there are regulatory requirements that non-profit organizations need to meet. So the board of governance or the board of directors or advisors, they basically sit at the top when it comes to the structure of a non-profit, just like the structure of a company limited by shares. And then they help in making sure that at the end of the day, the entire organization is run to achieve its objectives.
Okay, Kojo, I have a question for you while we're waiting for the phone lines to ring. Why should a young man who's out of school, who's setting up a business, or an entrepreneur who's decided I want to go into business, why should they set up a non-profit organization? What's the motivation? And I have a question on the back of that. The second question is that what would you say is the difference between a non-profit organization and these companies that are set up in the free zones? So let's take the first one. What's the motivation? Okay,
so in terms of the motivation could be anything other than wanting to make profit or seeking to make profit. So if that's young entrepreneur who has just completed school seeks to go into business, once he's able to identify a cause, usually it will be a problem in society that he seeks to address. It's okay to put yourself together, put your team together, and run a business to make sure that you are able to identify solutions that can address that particular problem in society. So what the objective will be is to address a problem in society. At the end of the day, you don't seek to generate profit. That's basically all that it means.
You see, I'm going to push that point a bit more because a lot of people are looking for something to do today.
Yes.
Now, ask my friends who, in the office say, we are not Father Christmas.
Yes.
I want to solve the problems in society. But that's why I'm going to queue on the 7th of December in the sun and vote for somebody to get a job. It's their job.
Yes.
If I'm solving a problem, it's fine that I'm solving a problem, but I want to make some money while I'm doing it.
Yes.
So I just want you to hit that point again for me.
Okay.
Before you go on, though, numbers to call 0302-216-541. That's 0302-216-541. Pick up that phone, give us a call. You can also send us a WhatsApp on 055-11-11997. Be that listener who gave us a call on the last show of Masterclass this year. We're waiting to speak with you. 0302-216-541. King, talk to us.
So knowing the problem and then seeking to solve it doesn't mean you're not going to be compensated for it. So if you're in the non-profit space, you definitely will get paid for it. So if you go into the business of non-profit, at the end of the day, you'll be compensated for your efforts. You're going to be on salary, you're going to be compensated by way of allowances. So whatever you do, the only difference is that you're not supposed to generate profit and share the profit among yourself as business owners. So you would be paid. So if you don't have anything doing and if you identify the cause in society, you think you can put your effort to addressing that problem, you go into it, whatever funding there is to the organization, your services must be paid for. And so you definitely will benefit from working in a non-profit space. I don't know if that addresses it.
It sort of does. So if I don't have a job, I don't have money, yes, I can earn a living from there.
Exactly.
But if I want to make money and do business, it's not a place for me.
It's not a
I mean,
place
out of the goodness of my heart, I can help somebody, yes.
Yes.
But if I'm not going to make profit while I'm doing it and I only want to earn a living, then yes, I can operate in that space.
That's exactly so.
Okay, let's go to my second question. What would you say is the difference between that, which we've just defined, and the companies that operate in the free zones?
The companies that operate in the free zones are entirely different, because in the free zones, you basically find companies that seek to usually generate foreign exchange for the country. And so they would normally have a company with a minimum requirement of exporting 70% of your production. So free zones companies would normally not have anything to do with non-profit organizations. However, because now we see a lot more non-profit doing what we refer to as social enterprises, they engage in commercial activities. So they may decide to undertake services such as selling their products beyond the shores of Ghana, because every free zones enterprise seeks to sell products or services beyond the shores of Ghana. That's basically what characterizes a free zones company. So the non-profit organization and non-profit entrepreneur wanting to do something with the free zones should have identified a commercial activity which would require him to export services. And if that becomes your mandate or the object for which you run, then obviously you cannot be a non-profit. So the free zones, I'll find it very difficult to put the non-profit in the context of a free zone, because they are entirely different. The free zones is a typical for profit-making businesses that find themselves there. And then they do business to generate profit, and then they sell their proceeds out of the country, usually 70% minimum, to make to generate foreign exchange for the country, and they are exempted of all taxes. So if you're coming from that angle, then I imagine that the tax incentives or the tax benefits due free zones companies, they are entirely different from what is due the non-profit players. In the non-profit space, your activities are exempted, and they are not exempted or limited for a period of time, unlike the free zones. So the free zones, there are benefits due free zones companies simply for the fact that they are engaging in activities that tend to add value, and then they export these services or these products and generate foreign exchange for the country. This is basically just one of them. But for the non-profit, your activities are usually tax exempt. If you, however, engage in commercial activities that are taxable, then the Ghana Revenue Authority will definitely come after you and have to pay all the relevant taxes. And it's important for me to add that you don't just also go into non-profit thinking that you do not have anything to do with the Ghana Revenue Authority. That's usually what most people think. If you run a non-profit and you have employees, you definitely have to file their income taxes. And then if you engage in any activity that is taxable, you definitely will have to pay your taxes to the Ghana Revenue Authority. So it's basically the fact that activities of non-profit organizations fall under the exempt provisions of the Ghana Revenue Authority.
Well, get interactive. Our phone lines are still open: 0302 216 541 055 1111997. That is our WhatsApp line. Send us your questions and comments, and King Kojo Sarfo is here to respond to their questions and comments as well. Nadokwa of Bubuashi says she wants to set up a non-profit business, but what are the steps to be taken to ensure that she is successful?
Okay, I think I discussed that in a question that came from Kofi. So now basically have to procure forms she has to procure forms from the Registrar General's Department and then go through the incorporation process, and afterwards proceed to the Department of Social Welfare and register. Now must be clear in terms of the object or the mission of her organization, and then once she's incorporated, she's good to do engage in her activities.
But she spoke about the aspect of being successful. So what are the steps to be taken?
I would narrow that down to making sure that she has a sustainable business. Sustainable business will come back to finding activities that would keep you in business, that will keep your organization running. She must be very clear with that. And then as a business, just like any type of business, you would have to run the organization. So you need finances to run the organization. So now must make sure that the resources required to run a business is well identified and sustainable enough.
Okay.
Where now wants to sustain the activities, now can decide to find some commercial activities that can be undertaken to make sure that the mission or the object of a business can be achieved, and where the commercial activity finds space within the tax brackets, that will be taxed.
Okay, Kojo, I mean, we have a long list of thank yous to say today, but before we get into that, I mean, what's our takeout for today's conversation? I mean, we'll be talking about non-profit organizations and what their motivation is and why people should go into it, and the nature and characteristics of that entire process. What's our takeout for today? If we forget everything we've discussed today, what should we remember from today's conversation?
Okay, so we should remember that non-profits are not exempted or they are not barred from doing business. If you find yourself in the non-profit space, it is important to remember that it is like any other business, and for that matter, your activities must be sustained. We have moved from the era of millennium development to sustainable development. So listeners should remember that it is very important for you to identify a mission, and identifying the mission.
Could you do me a favor? Hold on to that thought. I've got a caller on the line, probably the only caller for the show. Let's talk to the person, and then you round up for me.
Okay.
And then I've got Abdullah from Ashaiman. Good afternoon, Abdullah. You're welcome to Masterclass. Talk to me. Good afternoon. I'm well, thank you, my brother. Talk to me. Okay, all right. So, Abdullah, thank you so much. Please keep listening. We'll try and answer your question. Okay, so that was Abdallah. Abdallah says that once you've gone through your process, you've worked, you've declared your monies at the end of the year and all of that, and you get extra money in your account, should you pay tax on that money as well?
Oh no, you pay taxes if the activities or the transactions you engaged in are taxable transactions. If you engage in commercial activities that are subject to tax, you pay the tax on that.
Okay.
But you do not pay tax simply because you have excess of income over expenditure. So once you find yourself in a non-profit, you are not subject to taxes. I mean, corporate income taxes.
Okay, right. 10 seconds. You finalize your takeout for me.
Yeah, so basically I'll say that listeners should understand that it's important to continue to sustain your non-profit agenda. And then finding a mission and a cause is not just enough, but working hard to make sure that you have activities that can sustain the business is the most important thing for today.
Thank you, Kojo. This has been an interesting conversation. We've learned a lot of things from you today. We wish we could have you longer, but we have to bring an end to this show. By God's grace, we have been able to come to the end of the year. It's been a particularly interesting year. I like to use that word. But here we are towards the end of the year. I would like to say a very big thank you to everyone who has been here on Masterclass. Kojo, I suppose you're here with us now, so a big thank you to you. Would also like to say a big thank you to our resource persons. I'll just quickly mention their names. We've had Yvonne Ohui McCarthy on the show, James Addison, Kofi Frimpong Corey, tax consultant. We've had Richmond Kwame Frimpong. We've had Samuel Boafo, HR consultant. We've had Senyo Ajabing. We've had Mauli Oklu, a salesperson. We've had King Kojo Sarfo, who is right here with us in the studio. John Ama, Derry Dean. When we had that show, we had William Demeter. We'd like to say a big thank you to all of you for being here on the show and helping us. Next year, by all means, we're going to come back and call on you again. We also like to draw the curtain back a bit, and I hope that they oblige me. The people who have been working behind the scenes, the Joy Business team. Masterclass is a Joy Business production, but we've got a very wonderful producer, Sarah. Sarah, we want to see you. Those who are watching us live on Facebook, Sarah, don't be shy. Okay, so Sarah is a producer. She's been putting all of this together. Wonderful production. Abeku Sankofi has also been super helpful. Mirabel and the entire Joy Business team, we are thankful to you for your support for the entire year. And also to you, our cherished listeners. Without you, this show would not have been successful. We thank you for sticking and staying with us throughout the year, giving us calls, motivation, support, and feedback. We will come your way again when we return in January. By all means, we will come to you for suggestions again as we continue. Until we come you. And of course, my man Nixon.
Well, let me leave this with our
10
listeners.
seconds.
We stand for peace.
We stand for peace.
We want one Ghana.
One Ghana.
So, therefore, on December 7th,
yes,
we want to ensure that everybody exhibit his or her franchise and return to the house or any place.
Go home after you vote.
Absolutely. So,
okay,
all what we stand for is for peace.
It's for peace. Okay. So we just want to say a big thank you to all of you. Until we come your way again next year in January, we're wishing you a Merry Christmas. We're wishing you a peaceful election. And we're saying here that stay safe, stay blessed, and see you next year. This has been Masterclass. Thank you so much for supporting us. Up next, we continue with The Ignition with Sami Forsen. Thank you for listening and see you next year.